So I have a really fun story to share, and this is something that happened to me was it last fall? It was right after my birthday. So yeah, Labor Day weekend's my birthday, and then it was my girlfriends from the city I used to live in, and it's about 2 hours away. They're in Kelowna, and I'm in Osoyoos, and they set up a dinner for me to come up and meet them in Penticton, and which is kind of midway between us. So it was, it's an hour for each of us to kind of join there, and then they got to the town a little bit early, and they went to this one little shop that one of the gals likes to shop at, and it was like a bead and crystal store, and anyways, and so I got to town, and they texted me where they were at, and I drove over, and I parked, and I get out, and as soon as I walk into the store, I could kind of see my friends off to the one side, but the owner walks right up to me, and I literally just stepped in, and she put something in my hand, and she points to her cash register, and she goes, "This lady, my, I can't remember how she words it, but um, my customer just bought this for you." And I look up and I look at the lady, and I thought, "Oh, it was fun." And she said, and then the owner said something about, "She's been waiting for you." So I quickly walk over to this woman, and I'm like, "Thank you," and and she looks at me, and she's just glazed over. She's very emotional, and I think I put the crystal in my pocket or in my jacket, wherever I did it, and I quickly, my hand started coding. Uh, so sometimes I'm in a state where somebody's team is very anxious to work through me, and I call it, it's like a backdoor thing. I don't even get a chance to set up my pillar and do my usual setup. But the usual setup is your permissions um, that you've told yourself need to be in place for me to step into this multidimensionality, right? So I'm a quantum coder, and so I work in this hologram, but that doesn't mean that Deborah has to sit down for 5 minutes and do all these things and call in all my guides and angels and da da da. And it's just my personality thought I had to do. But I, over and over, my teams show me it happens instantly. I've been sitting on park benches. I've been sitting on the beach. Anyways, and it comes in really quick and sneaky. And next thing you know, I'm coding. So, and I think it's sometimes, well, it almost always is more magical anyways, because there's no efforting in there. And I think that's what I'm learning, is just let go of the efforting. It happens when it happens, right? And so anyways, so I go over to this woman, and my hands are up, and I'm coding and bringing all these things, and tears are streaming. She's got a huge release happening, and it was quite beautiful. And I'm saying, "Are you okay with light language?" Because, I just thought, "Oh my gosh, she's going to think I'm this crazy lady if I don't, preface this with, or at least check in with her, right?" And anyway, so I'm coding away, and I wasn't even thinking in that moment that my girlfriends were at the other side of the store. Um, I was in such a deep space with this woman that I'd kind of forgotten what was going on. And had this beautiful exchange with this woman. It was very, it wasn't very long. I think maybe it was just, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. I have no idea. Like, I lost track of time in that space. And I was just, saying, just breathe, just let it go, surrender, because I knew she was getting a big release, right? And a big healing, you would say, because that's what the releases are. It's when we've got old programs or old systems or old codes, right, that are in distortion, or we'll call them incoherent. They're inharmonious, or it could be dis-ease, right? Because that's what it is. These are just these codes that are not, they're not in alignment with your divine self, right? And so anyways, I'm coding away, and this woman, when we stop, we hug each other. I give her a really big hug, and I tell her, go home and, drink lots of water, and go ground and take care of herself. And I said, "Thank you so much, for the crystal." And then she laughed. She didn't stick around, because I think she was pretty embarrassed, maybe to be seen in that way, because she was very emotional at that moment. And that we were in a store, like, this is not, where we had to have a private session somewhere, or even, I might do it on the beach with somebody somewhere, but, we were out there in the open. Anyways, and then so my friends come over, and they were kind of like, what just happened, And the interesting thing is, for me, is that's the first time I allowed my old world, where I used to live in Kelowna, to see this new version of me that's been doing light coding in this new community where I've been very quiet here, and I haven't put myself out in a big way as a community. I was more of a community person in my old town because I owned the contemporary art gallery there, and this new, I knew I needed to let go of that identity. So when I moved, because I had just started coding, I think was it about only about, wasn't that funny? Only about 4 months before I moved, we'd bought. So I started coding, and then I think we bought this new house literally within weeks. Isn't that interesting? But I was able to rent it, my old house back. Well, my husband rented our renovated our new house because the new, I'd sold my gallery, and then the new owners weren't ready to set up. Like, I couldn't believe the alignment of how everything unfolded. And I knew I was guided and supported in being here, but also I didn't have any inclination to make a lot of friends here, to become too known, because I was in this cocoon phase, and now we've been here 5 years, and this is the first time where I'm kind of going, okay, I think that the work is ready to be seen. And in fact, I know, I would say the last year I keep getting these little nudges and people, telling me, and other channels. I have a lot of intuitive friends saying, Deborah, they want you to teach this. And so, but it took me a while, and it took me literally a collapsing of the old identity, stepping into this new one. So that when this woman and I did this coding and my friends saw me, it was like the two worlds kind of colliding. And it was an interesting thing. And I realized, oh, my team set me up with that woman to be seen in this way. And the women that came over, that my friends, were part of a meditation group that I was with in my old town in Kelowna. And it was a beautiful meditation group, and lots of healings were done in there. I have a beautiful friend who's a facilitator, who taught a lot of her multidimensional work through them. And before I ended up doing my own coding, right? And but she brought us along in a really nice way, and gentle, and she's very eloquent about the early stages of healing, the inner child and that sort of thing. And yeah, and just dealing with those early spit ups, she called them, which is really a really nice way to language shadow, really was what it was. But so anyway, so these friends were there, but I had bought these crystals when I was in Sedona, not long after Janelle had passed. My husband and I were down there, and I hadn't been coding yet. It was right before COVID, before everything shut down. And I bought this beautiful egg, the celestite egg. It's the egg. It's a light blue crystal for the angelic kingdom. And I had been in this store in Sedona. I walked around. I kept visiting this one egg, and I kept going back to it. And finally, I grabbed it and I brought it to the counter. And the woman that owned the store, she says, "Oh, she was hoping you were going to pick that egg." And she was connecting to Janelle at that time, and she was telling me how I could work with it, and it was very beautiful confirmation, which was really nice, because you still in those early days, you're going on instinct, but you're not necessarily getting the feedback to know if you're right. So that doubt still has some, I want to say, it's still siphoning, right? It's still, it's like your mind is going, I believe in this magic, but then the doubt might be like, maybe that's 30% and this is 60%. And then you meditate a little more and you're getting to 40, getting to 50, 50, 50, right? You can't just collapse this fully, but then you start getting a little bit of feedback. This starts going away, and all of a sudden you're at 70%, right? And then another beautiful feedback thing happens. So this woman brought me right to 100%. Which was really nice, because I'd been getting little bits of it here and there. And I knew, but I did not want to put myself out there as a teacher of this modality this Mobius strip that I work to collapse the ions, right? I didn't want to put myself out there unless I knew for sure that I was doing what it is that I'm intending to do, right? Like that it works for people, right? I know it worked for me, right? But that outer world permission hadn't shown up. Like, it was showing up in small ways, again, kind of like that, but this one was the big one that got seen, which was a really nice, and by my friends, right, which was a beautiful synchronicity. But getting back to my friends, I bought them all little tiny from crystals, like that egg that I bought, that from, to connect to the angelic kingdom and Janelle. I had bought them all small ones, right? These tiny little pebble sized ones, because they were part of the meditation group. So I got back and I gave one to everybody in the group. And of those three friends, two of the three, yeah, had those little eggs. So there was three of us that could hold that had worked at that crystal, that angelic realm in our meditations enough. There's the Trinity, right? So they were assisting me in holding that space. They wouldn't have known it. Their higher teams were with us. That's when it comes through me, it's way bigger. It's not Deborah doing anything, right? I'm not doing the coding. It's just moving through me. My hands are up, and it's, we're working in the hologram. I'm getting impressions of what's happening, but I don't even need to know. Honestly, it's probably, well, I know it's way beyond me, and my trying to understand it might even get in the way and slow the process down. And I don't want to go there. It's only the ego that thinks it has to know. And that's the piece where I kind of let it go. I quieted the doubt, because I decided that if I'm questioning the divine, which that's what's moving my hands. Deborah doesn't know any of these movements. I wouldn't know the right swirls to make. I wouldn't know all the finger codes, all those things. Deborah doesn't have any idea of any of that. I know it's coming through that divine, because that's I'm merging more and more every day with that piece of me. So that, why would I question the divine, right? And so that's an egoic thing. And so I had to surrender that and step fully on into the trust. And so we're chatting afterwards, and I was telling them, that, and so I pulled out that little crystal that the woman had bought me. It's a miniature version of my egg, my Sedona egg, I call it. In it, she bought me the miniature version, and it's not it's not a common crystal, right? It's not, and in fact, that store, they have thousands and thousands of crystals. They didn't have many of these ones. They were behind she had to unlock this cage and show there was a few of them in there. So it was her impulse, that woman that did it, that was guided to buy that crystal. And so I've given my number to the store in Penticton. I hope she finds me, because I wanted her to know the importance of what that meant to me. And it was right after my birthday. So my friend that wasn't part of the meditation group, she goes, "Oh, it was like a gift from Janelle for you, for your birthday." And she nailed that. So I got that. So she brought in the message with it, which is really nice, even though she wasn't necessarily part of the team. I mean, she was, but not through the pathways that we had activated, because that's all it is. It's, you give certain permissions and meditations to work with those neural pathways, and every time we visited that angelic realm, we were basically bringing those frequencies back and forth. So we're expanding our pillar of light in that way, going up and down. I would say it becomes a high fiber optic, the more you do it. So anyway, so they were assisting in creating that space. So the owner comes over, and she was saying that the woman that knew I was coming, and she was buying something else, but she had put this crystal out there, and she says, "I'm buying this. There's a woman coming really soon, and this is for her." And yeah, anyways, I thought that was very, very beautiful and just magical timing. And there was that part of me that went, maybe my girlfriend set that up, and but I don't think they would be sneaky like that. And there's that piece of me that wanted to go, and it's an interesting thing, because if I wasn't trusting in my own ability to co-create that level of, we'll call it magic or permission, then I'm kind of tainting all the things that I do that in a magical way. So I'm going to allow it to have showed up. We walked out of there all on a high, and we had a beautiful night, and other magical things kind of happened to us after we left there, because we were all feeling very angelic, after that. It was a very beautiful moment. So, but there's that little part of you that can, because I can make up, I've got a great imagination, right? So I can make up stories. And I got home and I went, do you think they set that up? Like, that they bought that crystal and asked that woman to stand there and say there's and I thought, no, because the owner came over, and when she was telling us, she was emotional. Her daughter came over, and she was also crying because she'd witnessed something that looked very miraculous. She was part of the energy of it, right? And but this is how we sabotage ourselves, right? And so that story that I started spinning, I realized it, again, speaking of the sum of our parts, I could take the codes from that doubt, from that story, if I give it any currency, any permission, right? Or go, yeah, there's a chance, right? Now I throw it as a backstory, and it's still got it's a sphere of influence, right? That's active now. I maybe didn't give it a lot of currency, but it's still there, right? It's that. And every time we attribute doubt to things, they add up, they add up, they add up. And now we've got this siphon happening, this energy drain on, can Deborah step fully into her power when she's got these other things? So I had a few other things happen along the way where I had to kind of go, I have to choose here is what timeline I want to be on. I'm going to be on a timeline where that was magical, that was real, and it presented to me exactly the way it did for me to actually see it as real. And it would only be my mind now wanting to spin it in a different story that can go back. And this is the thing, because we're quantum, I can actually almost they call it where you re-know or negotiate the energy. So now there's a new mistrust in the field. There's I've been lied to, I've been deceived, betrayal, or whatever it is, energetic, that now is attached to that story if I was to give it any credence. And now that's what's in my back, it becomes part of the sums playing in my field. And so it's that renegotiation piece is really important. That's how we can heal our inner child. You go back to those trauma moments in your life, and you send yourself so much love, so they're no longer active. You pull those distortions back into 0 point, and you just say, we're good, we're safe, we've got this, right? And you're magical, you're going to get through this, and you're doing well now. And whatever it is you need to say and negotiate so that those energies are beautiful and empowering, right? And this serves you, right? And I know it's hard to go through it right now. Whatever, it's funny, my hands want to go into an alignment here. Whatever it is that we need to bring everything back to the 0 point, to make sure that we're not spinning out in stories that are disempowering, that will call in codes that will distort our future timelines, right? If you're not available for those for the miracles, because you've got too much doubt going on. Oops, that's interesting. So I had to shift that from my microphone. Hopefully I didn't. I'm just going to breathe that down. So whatever that was about. So anyways, I wanted to share that because that was a beautiful story. But I also wanted to share how we can create layers of we can call it interference patterns. We can add our own distortions in how we look back and reflect, right? Because they are reflections, right? And those reflections come into play in the sum of our parts. And so at this moment, I just want to let go of all reflections that are disempowering. So, yeah, something's there that wants to be coded in, I guess. So, yeah, so I think there must be people that hear this and know that there's moments in their life where they weren't owning the magic that they created, that they talked themselves out of it being a magical moment or being maybe the perfect healing, right? Maybe they got the perfect healing but didn't believe it. And then all of a sudden, a week later, something showed up and they went, see, I didn't get that healing, right? No, you did get the healing. You let doubt and you let your spin a new narrative, and you renegotiated the energy into a disempowering one. And you had some codes there that were already active that were disempowering, or your mind wouldn't even have gone into the story, right? So, so we're just going to open up pathways for those miraculous codes to flow through. I think this is what we're doing, I'm guessing, as we are probably clearing our pillars of light to allow ourselves to have miracle moments that we know are miracle moments, right? That we can step more fully into those areas and trust that the setup came to us. And even if the setup's not perfect, not like maybe not as clean as it was with those women, and you kind of could walk away going, what was that? This is the game. I think you get to renegotiate it in your mind. And this doesn't mean lie, because you're going to know if you're lying, but renegotiate it where you give it the benefit of the doubt. And it's kind of like, people saying, I have a parking god, right? And, we have no problem. We joke about that. We think it's really funny, but some of us really do get great parking spaces all the time because we've allowed that to be real, right? But we've negotiated the codes of, and those are just, again, they're just codes in our field that say we find great parking, right? And that, our teams work with us, or these, the parking god works with us. And so, but you can do that with a lot of areas of your life, right? And so that's a really important one, I think, is to negotiate at ions, right? And negotiate them so that they are not in the negative charge and they're not pulling you in a distortion, in a fantasy or a distortion. I don't, but I'm going to be at 0 point where I'm going to go, you know what? I think that might have happened, right? And, again, the fantasy is where you're kind of lying to yourself, right? But if you're available for it to have been a positive experience, right? And, and it's not a big stretch of the imagination, and you just can go, I think that, maybe this happened. And you're kind of holding the allowance, the space for it to have been something magical. I think that's really important. It's just, what space are we holding for all these things? And you can look back at multiple times in your lives, where, you saw a shooting star or something, or I don't know, a license plate went by and at the right time, and you were thinking of something and it confirmed it, or, just lots of different things that happen in your life, right? That you can allow it to have served you, allow it to have been your higher self communicating to you, because you're very supported. That's a really nice negotiation of the energy, right? So you're not lying, right? You're not telling yourself something that's a fantasy. You're just allowing more light now to get through to you in that way, because that's the permission you have given it, right? That's you creating this new code of support and communication from those the higher bandwidth of your consciousness, right? So so you're just adding a nice I'm going to say it's just a new program that you're available for. So some collapsing going on here. So maybe this is the doubt programs. Maybe we are letting go of some of those times where we've talked ourselves out of things, where we have negotiated ourselves smaller than we were, not giving ourselves permission to have been maybe the person that walked into the party at the room, and all of a sudden something changed, or a rainbow comes out at the right time, or something magical that happened, and you didn't own it, right? And this is not to say that nobody else participated, because that's the thing, is there we create stronger when when a few of us can come together. There's a stronger coherence, and then we have more power on the grid to create from there. And that's why in that store it was quite beautiful, because the coherence from all of us, and we were all in our hearts that day, looking forward to seeing each other, right? I hadn't seen my friends for quite a while in person, and so we were all in our hearts. Honestly, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful confirmation of coherence and what that looks like, and what people can do gathered together. Like, what do they say? Two or more, or three or more are gathered in my name, and there I am. Yeah. So I quote these things, but I don't read a lot of the Bible. So but I know biblical understandings were metaphors before science, right? They didn't understand, and they didn't have the tools of measurement that we had. So there was biblical conversations. So, but yeah, creating a coherence of energy. I'm not sure what this is, but I know it's beautiful. So just allow it to settle. Just, you've got this divine source intelligence within you. If you just breathe it in, and you just give permission for this energy to work through you in the most appropriate way for you at this time, and just trust, right? You'll receive the energy in the most appropriate way. If it's appropriate, I'm not saying it's all. You may have it already active in your field, or we're just maybe, dusting it off a little bit, right? Maybe we're bringing it back into a harmonic state, whatever it is. So yeah, that feels like it. It feels like we woke something up and we brought it into a balance here. Yeah. Because at our core, we are all, sparks of that one source, right? So your spark is your creator source energy, right? And so how do you use it? Where do you give yourself permission to have created from there, right? And the more you can allow it to have been things that where you suspect you created something, to be real, the more you're cognizing it, which is, we have these neural pathways, but I think they're also synapses, where you have these kind of like reactions, react ions, right? And yeah, once an idea has really landed and you've embodied it, because you've had some feedback from it, it's no longer just an idea. You have allowed it to be real, right? And so now the sum of your parts is going to shift. It's going to, because that ripple out of you being this beautiful divine creator being that you've now stepped into and given permission, it's going to ripple out differently. So the old permissions are going to be affected by this, because you can't be more empowered with those programs. I think what'll happen is the programs of limitation have to be let go. I always say, it might just be the low-hanging fruit at first, right? Because we are unbraiding and unweaving, the old programs to allow the new ones to come in. But it starts that way. It starts a bit smaller, where we, and we do it incrementally. We do it in a way that we're not in a distortion, because we don't want to be too far into the fantasy where we are, making shit up, right? That's the key, because you can't fool yourself, right? And you're not fooling your teams. And so anything that you make up is a distortion, right? So, but it's playing with the permission. So is that done yet? Just it's a very slow energetic transmission, but it's it feels like a bigger one though. It's a bigger sphere. That's that we were working in there. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to breathe it down to Gaia to be anchored in. May it be recorded and made available for all those who are ready. May it integrate with grace, ease, light, love, and divine empowerment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Okay. I call back all my consciousness and awareness into this now moment. May we be balanced, as above, so below, as within, so without. Okay. There. That is complete. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, hopefully that all made sense to everybody. Thanks again for joining me here. Love you.